All right, family, thank you for tuning in to WDRB Media, the voice of the community. Welcome to the Commitments Radio Show, the show that provides hope, healing, and help for relationships. We are building stronger and healthier relationships, one conversation at a time. Here's my disclaimer. Opinions expressed by the host are not necessarily the opinions of the radio station, its owners, affiliates, or advertisers. Opinions expressed by our guests are absolutely not my opinions or the opinions of the radio station owners, affiliates, or advertisers of the radio station or Commitments Radio. We have a couple of sponsors that I want to get to today. The first one is Discover Your Community at the House of Light Church. Join us for inspiring worship, meaningful connections, and a place to grow your faith. At the House of Light Church, you'll find authentic love, truth, and community without judgment or pretense. Sunday services are at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Visit us in person or join via live stream at hoflchurch.org. That's hoflchurch.org. And that is the House of Light Church where you belong. All right, family, we have a special guest with us today. We have Bishop Robert H. Kelley III. He is a co-founder of the Democratic Party. Democrats Abroad South Africa in Johannesburg, South Africa. A portal for American voters was established in 2008. Since then, thousands of Americans living on the continent have used this portal for the election, as well as conducting phone banking and advising stranded voters residing in various countries. He provided input to the Biden Africa Working Group concerning strategies for how the White House would use modalities that empower the deployment of the diaspora to strengthen African trade policies and business linkages. He serves as a political commentator on matters of political and economic, as well as humanitarian issues. During the last election cycle of the U.S., he served as vice chair and then assumed chairmanship of the African Committee of Democrats Abroad, responsible for securing new voter blocks. So there's a whole lot to this man, whole lot that he has done. I don't have the time to read all of that. There's so much more that I could read about what he's done professionally and what he's done spiritually. But you know what? We'll get to all of that at some point. Today, though, we're really focusing on, does America have a leadership deficit? And I'm going to let him talk about that a little bit. But let me just kick off the show by reading this. This is an article that was written on November the 3rd, 2024, called America's Crisis of Leadership by Walter Russell Mead. He says this: the biggest single crisis facing the United States on the eve of the election does not come from Kamala Harris or the other guy. It does come. It does not come from our enemies abroad. It doesn't come from our dissensions at home. It does not come from unfunded entitlement commitments. It does not come from climate change. Our greatest and most dangerous crisis is the decay of effective leadership at all levels of our national life. So we're going to talk today about whether or not America has a leadership deficit. And Bishop, I'm just going to go right to that point and ask you that question. Does America have a leadership deficit?
Well, just the whole idea of the question is certainly rather troublesome.
Hmm.
But I would have to argue that it does, and one that perhaps has been deteriorating for quite some time. And every president, I think we've had, the last four presidents, not just, this is Trump's second term, but even all the other presidents, they all had some challenges, I think, with the element of leadership. Whether Democrat or Republican, the issue is the subject of leadership. And that raises the question of what are you looking for in leadership, right?
Mm-hmm.
But to come back to your point here, I would say that our greatest challenge is not finding the right president or sound president. It's the issue of what do we think the job description of leadership is in this country for congressmen, senators, the vice president, and certainly the president of the United States.
And as you say that, I think the thing that jumps out at me is when we talk about leadership in America, we're not just talking about one person. We're not just talking about just the president. So talk for a moment, if you don't mind, about when you talk about leadership, uh, who are the leaders that we are examining in that question?
Well, I think we're certainly examining first and foremost our politicians.
Hmm.
We're also examining our business persons,
Hmm.
our chief executive officers, who also report to boards and so forth, chairmen of boardships as well as the overall boards itself.
Hmm.
So we're looking at the corporate dynamic as well, whether or not, and I don't want to get at why it's a question of their leadership, but just let me tell you where it is as you rightfully question. Also, our churches,
Hmm.
the moral imperative. Do we get a moral imperative in our society? Our judicial system, our judges, our Supreme Court judges,
Hmm.
uh, are they are they operating in a very sound basis of pure leadership?
Okay.
Because I think to a large degree, when you're a leader, it is also a fiduciary responsibility.
Hmm.
Leadership is not something that's personally motivated or personally driven,
Hmm.
but it's about the vision and where you want to take people to. I often hear people talk about the lack of vision in the Democratic Party.
Hmm.
For a long time, I think the lack of vision has been there. I mean, it's great to have the slogans, making America great again, but we're already great.
Hmm.
Until you lived outside of America, until you've experienced other people's dynamics of citizenship in other country, you don't realize how America is already great.
Hmm.
But the problem, of course, is whose definition of great are we looking to achieve?
Right.
The moral imperative separation of church and state. I think that's always a catch-all statement, but to a large degree, we do need a level of morality that's not just morality in itself, but all morality to a certain degree is faith-based.
Hmm.
All of it is based on somebody's faith. It may not be just the Christian faith alone, but morality in itself has a sense of a deep humanity that's beyond our individual makeup and composition.
So when we so really kind of looking at America's crisis of leadership and talking about does America have a leadership deficit? I want to hone in, if I can, kind of politically, because we can certainly talk about it from a business standpoint. We can talk about it from a church standpoint. We can talk about it from a community standpoint. But let's really kind of hone in on the political side, if we can. Can you share some examples in your mind of what a leadership deficit looks like in our political realm?
Well, it looks like certainly that political decisions are focused on one particular group, organization, or culture, if you will.
Hmm.
Um, I won't even talk about some of the current decisions that have been made that seem to be, I'm saying seem to be,
Hmm.
about a population,
Hmm.
particular population. Um, and I'm not just talking about the African American population. I'm not talking about just the veteran population or disabled population,
Hmm.
but it seems like there's a lot of lack of leadership about um, who your decisions favor. I believe leadership is about favoring all parties.
Hmm.
I may not like your decision, but I can understand the benefit of a party being favored over another,
Hmm.
because that's leadership. At the end of the day, I think leadership is solely driven about how you look at America.
Hmm.
The word America's Latin for friend. Now, how do you look at America? I think when we walk out our doors of our neighborhoods, if we see our neighbors as friends, as enemies, or someone that's in competition with us just by mere existence, or by our gender or our personality, or whatever, I think the leadership has had a negative impact on who we are as a society.
Yeah, and so there's certainly a lot more that we want to dig into that. We're going to go ahead and take our first break. When we come back, I do want to lean into that a little bit more. This whole concept of American leadership, and I love the point you made about America being great. It depends on where you're sitting, and if you've never ventured out of this country, then you may be misled into believing that we need to be great again, as if we're not. So I love that point. I want to kind of lean into that a little bit more, but we're going to go ahead and take a break. And when we come back, we'll continue our discussion with Bishop Robert H. Kelley III, talking about does America have a leadership deficit? You're listening to Commitments Radio on WDRB Media. We'll be right back after the break.